Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are. Welcome to another episode of What's Up with Power. My name is Justin Wagner with Team ODZ. We're happy to be here this morning, or like I said, afternoon or evening, whatever it is for you. It's morning my time, to have a fun little ride in Zwift here on the side. We've got that queuing up. We're just over 2 minutes to the start of group ride. While we're having that group ride, we're going to learn a little bit about the basics of power-based training so you can take your training to the next level. So if you haven't joined the group ride yet on Zwift, I encourage you to do so. Search for What's Up with Power in the event listing, where it's always Wednesdays at this time right now, whatever that time is for you. That's 6:30 a.m. Pacific, 9:30 a.m. Eastern. Some other time in the UK, which I'm not going to try to translate right now. Anyway, this is where we are. We've got a good group going in Zwift. I'm going to send them a couple messages. Once that group ride gets rolling, we'll start the presentation. So just over 60 seconds out, I'm going to give them some instructions to know that we're going to stay together at 1.5 to 1.8 watts per kilo. Give me a second. Send those messages out. Balance that. Bring up the live stream so I can see any of your questions and comments. So the way this works is we are going to have 15 minutes of questions and answer, 15 minutes of teaching, and then after that teaching section, we're going to have 15 minutes of Q&A. So if you have questions, drop them in the chat, and I will address them as we get to them. And group ride is beginning now. Okay. So we got a nice 20 folks in here. I'm gonna bring down my wattage a bit, get it honed into where we want it to be. Switch to the slide view. Okay. Down my power just a hair more again. Okay, perfect. Okay, so today's topic is a recap. So we basically have a 12-week cycle of topics we cover here in What's Up with Power. And what we're going to do today is give you a executive 10,000-foot summary of all those topics. You could go back and drill into any of them if you have, if any of them pique your interest, maybe something that, hey, you know, I really wanted to know more about that. So that's the purpose of today. Give that overview, and you could go back and watch them, or you'll know what to tune in next time. We basically run on about a 12, 13-week cycle with our topics. So, and also I want to mention that, so we post all the episode replays on the forum at discuss.endurancelab.fit. And a lot of times you get good discussions after the fact on different topics. In fact, a couple weeks back, we talked about what power meters are right for you, and there was quite a good conversation, people sharing their experiences with different power meters. So if you haven't checked out the forum yet, highly recommend doing that. Discuss.endurancelab.fit. And also, all of the video replays are kept on our YouTube playlist. So if you're following the Team ODZ channel on YouTube, we have a YouTube playlist that's got all of the What's Up with Power videos lined up. So if you wanted to do a What's Up with Power-a-thon, 24 hours. I don't even know if we have 24 hours of content yet. We might. Actually, yes. We have, what, 57 episodes? That's 26 and a half more. Can't do math on the fly. Hours of content. There we go. You could do a 24-hour What's Up with Power-a-thon, should you so desire. All right, so let's get into the meat of today's conversation. Those to get this way. So, all right, so What's Up with Power 45? We had Taylor Thomas, the presenter, and we talked about why should I train with power. Now you notice in these slides, these titles here are orange. They're hyperlinked, so we do post the slides after the fact, or sometimes ahead of time in the forum. So the forum we talked about, discuss.endurancelab.fit. Head there, and all these are hyperlinked, so you can follow right to it if you want to follow up with one of these. So talked about the basics. Why should I train with power? How does power differ from heart rate or speed, or what's the whole hype about training with power? And that's what we covered there. What's Up with Power 46? We had Nate Dunn from Data Driven Athlete. That presentation was all around, okay, I decided to get a power meter. I bought one. I've got it. Now what? What do I do? Everyone says this is a cool thing, but like, where do I get started? What am I setting up? What am I doing? What are the logistics? So that was, we covered in that episode. And naturally, once you kind of get the mechanics of what it's connecting to, what data fields you're kind of looking at, then the question, then you start to hear people talking about this dreaded thing called an FTP, an FTP test. So What's Up with Power 47, we talk all about the FTP test, some different testing protocols that exist, why there's so much importance put on the FTP test. So if you have any questions or interest on that, head back, you can rewatch that episode. It's a good one. It's kind of the way it progresses as you get a power meter. So after that, okay, so once you've gotten your FTP down, you've gotten a test, you've got some, now you kind of start to get these numbers that's, you can almost start to compare yourself in a global scale and see where you kind of lie. You can also compare yourself against yourself at different time metrics. So what I mean by this is, am I a better sprinter? Am I a better time trialist? Okay. And so one of the things we've done a presentation there on What's Up with Power 48 when we had Taylor Thomas in, was we talked all about weaknesses and strengths, understanding them. How do you test them? How do you look at your power data to figure out where your weaknesses, strengths lie? And what can you do maybe to improve them, right? Are your weaknesses always going to be your weaknesses? Can your weaknesses become your strengths? That was the conversation we had there with Taylor, okay? And then What's Up with Power 49, I was the presenter that day. And the purpose of what we had there was all along the lines of data analysis techniques and tips. So I think a fair number of us are on Strava, right? We attack segments, we try to get faster ones, try to beat the KOMs, try to beat our buddies' KOMs. So, and then we sit there afterwards and we look at the data. And our wives ask us, didn't you just go ride for 2 hours? Why are you now staring at the data from your ride for 2 hours? Maybe that's just me. I'm sure none of you have ever done that. It's probably just me. So we talk about some of the techniques and tips for analyzing data, given the fact that you've now got power data, right? What are we looking for? What can be some of the tips and tricks? How can you start to see when maybe you had no chance of beating the KOM because maybe the wind was in the wrong direction and you can definitely tell. Or maybe you were riding a fat bike instead of a road bike, you know. So, yep. And if you keep, question life, if you keep doing endurance rides, will my FTP improve? I will put that in our questions to answer. In fact, you know what? Let me address that really quickly. So we had a comment come up in the game. If you keep doing just endurance rides, will your FTP improve? I will say this much. I would say it builds the base for your body to recover so that you can ramp to the net flow. You need you need a platform to build on to get the higher speeds. So yeah, so I wouldn't say endurance rides. If you only ever do endurance rides, will definitely not. I don't think they'll necessarily increase your FTP. It'll definitely increase your time to exhaustion, maybe, as well as give you the ability to recover faster, so you can put in those higher intensity workouts that will push your FTP. Stay with me at 1.5. We got a lot of flyers this morning, but that is okay. It happens. We're not too concerned about it. We're having a good conversation. Okay, so yeah, 49 there. Talk a lot about data analysis techniques. This is really interesting. Let's say you've gone and done some hill repeats, or you've attacked a hill over time and curious why maybe you did or didn't improve your times. And so I've gone into some deep analysis there on a local hill of mine, and some of my power numbers, and look at maybe how my weights change, and kind of take those into account. Interesting things when you start to look at your power in the real world. All right, so in What's Up with Power 50, we talked with Nate Dunn from Data Driven Athlete, and what was the premise here? So he had a very interesting perspective on the rate of perceived exertion versus power and what the right balance is. And so you kind of think, well, this whole show is about training with power. Why would we on earth would we ever talk about rate of perceived exertion? Well, it comes down to knowing your body and understanding what different efforts feel like. A while back, we had Kristen Armstrong, 3-time Olympic gold medalist, on the channel, and one of the interesting things she noted was, when I race, I never use a power meter. And so some of us would think, what? How on earth? Like, the power meter is the tool of choice for time trials, to know you're in the right zone and to really nail the effort, right? Well, she put it this way: when it comes down to it, I'm either gonna bury myself and trust my training and my pacing and do good, or I'm gonna listen to some piece of electronics that'll tell me to back off, and I won't win, maybe, potentially. Now, that's an interesting perspective, and I think it has some valid point. And to get to that point, she's basically done enough training to understand her body's reactions to different effort levels, right? So she can know what kind of power she should be holding, and she knows what that feels like. Woo, just got a 250 experience points. Yes, level 26, here I come. So we kind of, this is an interesting aspect of that you'll notice as people get more and more tuned to power meters. They can, you definitely use them in context and understand when you need to be very specifically focused on second to second power versus maybe other rides where you're not so concerned about that, but maybe you're out doing a ride where you're more concerned about total amount of work to do. And so great conversation there. I would check that out. I always really enjoy Nate's presentations. quite the good presenter. So, all right, after that, we brought Taylor Thomas Endurance Coaching back onto the show. What did we talk about there? So you may have heard of this thing called the Performance Manager Chart. Fitness, freshness, fatigue, okay? These are the concepts that you build on as you understand training and your training load, and you build up to trying to properly peak for a race. And I think everyone's probably heard of the concept of peaking, but maybe just can't quite sink our teeth into the technical understanding of what do I do if I want to peak, right? Do I just say, oh, the race is this weekend, I'm going to peak? Probably not. Probably need a little bit more preparation than that. But anyway, so that's a great presentation from Taylor on that topic, talking about the Performance Manager Chart. How do we use that to put in the right training at the right times, back off at the right time so that your body will be primed and peak at the moment you want it to, okay? Next episode was normalized power. Now, typically, we actually would reverse 51 and 52 here, but this is the way live presentations go and presenter availability. Anyway, so why would I do it first? Well, because in order to get to the point of understanding the Performance Manager Chart that we talked about, 51, you really need to have a grasp on training stress score, normalized power. Those concepts build into and they're the building blocks for the Performance Manager Chart. Okay, so as we understand training and stress score, normalized power helps us understand how that builds into the model that is the Performance Manager Chart of our performance. Now, so episode 52 there is all about the nitty gritty on normalized power. In fact, you could even write, I'm positive there's enough detail in the presentation that an informed individual could write the formulas in Excel, calculate normalized power, and match current algorithms based on that presentation alone. Why? Because I did it myself. I'm that much of a nerd, yes. So talk about normalized power, how that builds into intensity factor, variability index, how does it compare to average power? So if you have no idea what normalized power is, and you're like, oh, is it like you compare that to abnormalized power, go watch What's Up with Power 52. It'll give you the perspective you need to understand where normalized power fits into your training, okay? What's Up with Power 53? We talked about making your own annual training plan. And actually, we're going to have a very interesting perspective on that topic this coming week. We're going to have Dennis Petro from Burrito Training talk about annual training, annual plans, how they're a live and living thing, and how we adjust for that. Okay, so I suspect he'll talk better about it than me. So maybe instead of going back and watching 53, you'll just hold out for next week when we get somebody better looking and better presenter to talk about it. Okay, 54. Taylor Thomas came back on the show, and we talked all about looking back on a season. Okay, anytime you start to plan for the future and plan for your goals ahead, you definitely need to look backwards, see what you did, see what you excelled at, see where you fell short. Ask some real questions of yourself. Ask, what did I fail at? What did I improve at? So doing a season review there definitely helps for looking forward, and I definitely recommend that presentation. Okay. What's Up with Power 55 is an interesting one. Again, we brought in Nate Dunn from Data Driven Athlete. What did we talk about? Well, a lot of times people feel like, hey, you know, I've been kind of stuck at a given performance level for X amount of time. I feel like I'm just not going anywhere. I'm kind of stuck in the same rut. Haven't really gone up and beyond, haven't gone to the next level. So Nate Dunn takes a very high level approach to talking about what do you need to do to realize progress and improvement, okay? And I really like Nate's approach here because he doesn't just talk about the mechanics of riding your bike, but your whole life picture, right? Family, work, life, these are all parts of the greater picture, and how do you improve to the next level? And I think he actually has a very good perspective on that. That's definitely worth watching, okay? He also has a really good blog post on that topic that we built the presentation around. And then finally, last week, I talked about which power meter is right for me. So there is a huge market of power meters. A lot of varieties, a lot of flavors, a lot of types, a lot of brands. This is good for the market. There's competition. But one of the things it does is it creates confusion for the end user, okay? Which of the 36,000 options should I pick? That's a valid question. And so we basically help you understand the bigger picture in the power meter market, zone into maybe the certain subset of power meters that would be applicable to you, and then help you then drill down into figuring out what's current prices, current discounts, maybe current features, right? These things change on the fly, or maybe you've got a buddy with one company versus another, right? So there's all sorts of other factors that might play into your specific, but we really help you narrow down the entire power meter market to maybe the part that's most applicable to you, okay? And that's what that presentation is all about. So, alluded to this already, but next week we're going to have Dennis Cotreau coming up next week from Burrito Training, talking about annual training plan. But I think you'll find this one especially interesting, talking about, well, what do I do when life happens, right? Because it's all fine and dandy, the plan I put into place in, say, December or January, but when, I don't know, broken bones happen, unexpected family vacations that either allow you to ride a lot more or don't allow you to ride as much, either side. How do I compensate for that and still have the assurance that I'm working towards and going to achieve the goal I have set out, okay? And then on February 7th, we're bringing it full circle, starting back with Nate Dunn, and we're going to talk about get Nate Dunn's perspective on training with power and why would I do it, okay? How does this differentiate from all the other methods that exist? Answer those very basic from the gun questions and have a good conversation around that. So with that, if you have questions, go ahead and let them fly. It is easiest for me if you type them in Facebook or in Discord. If you type them in the game, it makes it a little harder for me to capture them, but I do my best. And anyway, so let's say you're watching the replay and you have some specific questions you want answered, probably quickest way is head over to the forum and drop your question there. We'll have a topic for this specific episode. You can drop it in the comments there and we will follow up with you. Also, you could just send us an email at WUWP, it stands for What's Up With Power, at teamodz.com. Also, if you're really enjoying these, but you can't always make the live broadcast, or maybe you've got a really crunched schedule, and it's not always easy for you to watch the video replay on Facebook or on YouTube, we also make these available on a podcast, okay? Podcast usually comes out a day, maybe 2 days after the live episode. So this is great if you're going to just catch up to it on your commute, 15-minute listen, whatever it may be. So if you want to get a hold of the podcast, go to your favorite podcast channel service and search for The Endurance Lab, and you will find the podcast. And we have all sorts of great content. Not only is this show on there, we also have the our Friday show from Jason called In the Feed Zone, where we talk about nutritional trends, topics, tips, all about the nutrition. Jason's really good at that. We also have we've got a weekly roundup from the coaches of the Endurance Lab talking about where the training's at, where it's progressing. So this is really pertinent to those in the Endurance Lab, or maybe for those who are just kind of curious, what is this Endurance Lab training all about? And is it right for me? And how do these coaches think? Check it out. Great preview tool to kind of see what's going on there. And I'm positive I'm forgetting. Oh, we also do feed in the chat and chill ride from on Mondays. To Taya Freestedt brings in special guests very frequently, most of the time, special guests to talk about maybe their story, where they're at in cycling, what they're doing that's interesting in the market, and so we feed those into the podcast as well as obviously all the contents here on the Facebook channel. So I'm hoping that this live feed that's showing is down is only on my phone and that we're still actually broadcasting. I'm going to assume that's the case and just keep going with the show. So anyone here on Discord have any questions from the show they want to ask? Good, all good. And the Facebook is quiet. So you know what, with that, I'm going to wrap up the live stream. We're going to keep the group ride going. We'll go to the end. We've got about 5 minutes left on the group ride, but we're going to go ahead and make this a little bit of a shorter episode for the replay. You can burn through it faster. Appreciate you coming. If you've liked the content, hit the like button, subscribe, tell your friends about it, comment on it, pin it up on your wall. Love to just have you come back and join us another time. We really enjoy putting these presentations and content together. So also, maybe a small shout out that we're going to have a race tonight we'll be covering on the channel. So WSBA is the USA Cycling Local Association, Washington and surrounding areas, and they're putting on a weekly race series on Zwift on Wednesday nights. And so that starts in just under 11 hours from now. We're going to have a broadcast on here of a racing perspective of that. So if you want to check out some live racing, come back tonight for that. And with that, I will say thank you so much for coming. Appreciate everyone. Really enjoy all the conversation topics, and we will see you next time.